The last time anyone remembers seeing Leanne Tiernan alive was on Sunday, November 26, 2000. She was 15 years old, full of life, and spending the day with her best friend, 15-year-old Sarah Whitehouse. The two had planned a little early Christmas shopping trip in Leeds, a bright sunny day, perfect for a casual outing. Sarah remembers it clearly. Leanne had that habit of getting lipstick on people when she laughed, and she just kissed Sarah on the cheek as they set off. It was playful, normal teen stuff, laughing, teasing, enjoying each other's company. After the small mishap with the lipstick, Leanne waved goodbye at Sarah's back door, and that was it. They caught a bus back to Bramley, a neighbourhood in West Leeds, and parted ways shortly after. Sarah tried to call Leanne's home later that afternoon, but got no answer. Eventually, she rang Leanne's mother, Sharon, only to find out Leanne hadn't returned yet. Her phone kept ringing, unanswered, and that's when worry started to creep in. At first, everyone hoped she'd just gotten held up. But as the hours passed, fear began to take hold. The worst-case scenario no parent ever wants to imagine. A teen simply didn't vanish without reason. Leanne lived with her mother and older sister Michelle, though she had a good relationship with her father, Michael, and loved spending time with her grandparents. She was a typical teenager in many ways. That day with Sarah was a rare break from her studies, a little slice of normal teenage life. When Leanne walked the short way home from Sarah's house, she took a shortcut through Howley Gill, a wooded footpath her mother had told her to avoid at night. It was broad daylight, so she felt safe, but she never made it home. By 5:20 p.m, when Sarah called and got no answer, concern escalated. Leanne's mother tried repeatedly to reach her on her mobile, but it was switched off. By evening, with no sign of her daughter, Sharon Tiernan called the local police to report her missing. And so began the first night of a frantic search, full of worry, hope, and uncertainty. What should have been a 20-minute walk home had turned into every parent's nightmare. As night fell, the worry for Leanne only grew. The police, led by Detective Superintendent Chris Gregg, sprang into action, but the search was far from easy. Bramley and its surrounding areas had over 700 houses, plenty of open land, woodland, canals, drainage shafts and wells, places where a teenager could hide, or worse. Sarah, Michelle and Leanne's family tried to do what they could. They grabbed flashlights from their local church and combed the neighbourhood, shouting her name through the quiet night. It was a small comfort, but it kept hope alive. Locals joined the effort too. Flyers went up across town, posters appeared in stores, and the community rallied to keep the search visible. A £10,000 reward for information was also offered. Several witnesses had seen a man walking his black and tan dog near Howley Gill around the time Leanne disappeared. Composite sketches were made, and calls to dog owners in the area came fast and furious. 70 men were checked, all eventually cleared, but it showed just how desperate investigators were to find her. Days turned into weeks. The public continued to rally behind the Tiernan family, leaving no stone unturned, hoping against hope that Leanne would be found alive. Every day that passed without news was a mix of fear, grief, and stubborn hope. Neighbours, friends, and authorities worked tirelessly, but the trail of a missing teenager can grow cold quickly. By the end of the first week, despite thousands of doors knocked on, houses searched, and DNA samples collected, there was still no sign of Leanne. The community clung to the hope that somehow she would walk back through that door, unaware that the situation was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. Months passed, and the search for Leanne seemed to stall. The community's hope was being tested every single day. Then, on August 20th, 2001, nearly 9 months after she vanished, a breakthrough came in the most tragic way. Mark Bisson, out walking his 2 dogs in Linley Woods, a dense area just inside North Yorkshire, stumbled across what he first thought was a pile of discarded items. On closer inspection, he realised it was something far more disturbing: the shape of a human body, wrapped and hidden in layers of trash. What he found was a floral duvet, tied up and concealing the remains of a young girl. Police arrived quickly, removing 9 heavy-duty green garbage bags to reveal the fully clothed body of a teenager. Leanne's hands were bound behind her back with 3 yellow cable ties, and a leather dog collar had been secured around her neck. Even with decomposition, investigators could tell she had been strangled. For the Tiernan family, it was a moment of heartbreak beyond words. The girl they had been searching for all those months was gone. And yet, even in death, the details of how she was found gave investigators critical clues. This location was not unfamiliar to police. In 1992, another young woman's body had been discovered in the same woods, her killer never caught. The discovery of Leanne's body set off an intensive forensic investigation. Fingerprints, fibers, and DNA samples were collected from everything from her clothing to the bindings around her hands. Investigators immediately knew that the killer had likely kept her in some kind of cold storage before disposing of her body, because the signs of decomposition suggested she hadn't been in the woods for the entire 9 months. Every piece of evidence, from the dog hairs on her clothing to the type of cable ties and garbage bags, pointed to someone local. Someone who had planned and executed this crime with horrifying precision. The search had ended, but the real work of figuring out who had taken her and why was just beginning. With Leanne's body recovered, the investigation intensified. Police knew they were dealing with someone local, methodical, and familiar with the area. Every clue was examined closely, from the dog hairs on her clothing to the green garbage bags and yellow cable ties. Each piece of evidence told a story, pointing them toward a suspect. One promising lead came from the dog hairs. Scientists at a university in Texas developed a DNA profile from the hair, a breakthrough in forensic work at the time, even though it was only a partial profile. The dog collar around her neck was traced to a Nottingham manufacturer, Armitage Leather Products. Investigators followed the trail of who bought these collars in the Leeds area. After contacting hundreds of wholesalers, they hit pay dirt on the 112th call. A Liverpool-based mail-order company called Pet Pajamas had sold 3 collars, one to a man living just minutes from where Leanne disappeared. His name was John Taylor. He lived in Bramley, worked as a parcel delivery driver for the Royal Mail, and outwardly appeared normal to his neighbours. But as investigators dug deeper, a disturbing picture emerged. Taylor had a history of animal cruelty, torturing rabbits, foxes, and birds. He bred dogs and kept them in freezers, and neighbours recalled the smell of animal waste coming from his home. When police searched his house, the evidence piled up. Dog hairs from one of his terriers matched those found on Leanne. Carpet fibres in his home matched fibres on her body. Yellow cable ties, identical to those used in her murder, were found in his possession. Even the twine used to wrap her in the green garbage bags matched twine found at his house, originally used for catching rabbits. Confronted with the evidence, Taylor initially denied knowing Leanne, but the forensic trail was undeniable. Investigators were able to reconstruct her final moments and link him directly to the crime. The methodical gathering of DNA, fibres, and purchase records gave police the breakthrough they desperately needed, ending months of uncertainty and grief for the Tiernan family. John Taylor, the man who abducted and murdered Leanne, lived what appeared to be a normal life in Bramley, Leeds. A parcel delivery driver, divorced, with 2 children, outwardly unremarkable to his neighbours, but beneath the surface he was deeply disturbed, having a long history of animal cruelty, sexual violence, and bondage fetishes. Investigators discovered that he had killed and kept animals in freezers, tortured pets, and used cable ties and scarves in ways that eerily mirrored how Leanne had been restrained. The forensic evidence connecting him to her murder was overwhelming. Dog hairs, carpet fibres, yellow Royal Mail cable ties, and the specific twine used to wrap her body all matched items in his home, and his purchases traced him directly to the area. Taylor was arrested, tried, and found guilty of kidnapping and murder, receiving 2 life sentences and a whole life order, ensuring he would never leave prison. Beyond Leanne, cold case reviews revealed that Taylor had attacked women going back decades, with assaults in 1977, 1988, and 1989, and he admitted to further violent acts spanning from 1977 to 1996, leaving authorities to wonder how many crimes had gone undiscovered. Leanne's case, though tragic, became a turning point in forensic investigation in the UK, highlighting the power of DNA, fibres, and meticulous police work. and her story continues to remind the public of the devastating impact one person's evil can have on families and communities while ensuring that Taylor's reign of violence ended behind prison walls.